Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your Libertarian car guy, and as I go down the mountain here in this 2016 Hyundai Tucson, stuck behind some clovers, I thought I'd embark upon a little mini rant about democracy, and in particular one of the underlying premises of democracy, the idea of representation. Everybody's heard that phrase, no taxation without representation, and we're taught that a political system is legitimate if you're quote-unquote represented. I got to thinking about that once. You've got a person who claims to represent a large number of people. Think about a senator, for example. There are 2 senators from each state. And if you take a populous state that has millions and millions of people divided by 2, allegedly, these 2 individuals somehow transmute the will of the people into some coherent, distilled essence and reflect it. It's nonsense. In the first place, it's practical nonsense. There is simply no way that a quote-unquote representative, even if he only quote-unquote represents, let us say, 10 people in a room, it's simply not possible from a logistic point of view for this one individual to represent those 10 people. He can represent some aspect of those 10 people, but ultimately what you got is this individual who claims to represent them being endowed with a kind of proxy power to act on their behalf. That's never made explicit, though, and that's the problem. You are told that you are supposed to vote for this individual and in effect cede all of your rights as an individual to this other person, who then is going to, when it comes down to it, issue edicts, legislative edicts that are enforced at bayonet point, at gunpoint, without your ever having explicitly consented probably to any of it. There may be some particular issue in some cases that you see eye to eye with your quote-unquote representative, but representatives are not single-issue advocates. They are people who've been given a brief, a carte blanche, to simply go out there and claim that they represent, quote-unquote, the people. And all of these things are shibboleths, they're shuck and jives, they're evasions. They sound nice, but when you really get down to the nitty-gritty, it is a form of tyranny in every meaningful way, of a piece with every other form of tyranny. I'll give you an example. I've recently been reading a biography of Reichsminister for Propaganda Joseph Goebbels, who will be familiar to those who are interested in the history of World War II and the Third Reich in particular. The Nazis had an interesting theory. They believed that they were a pure form of democracy. That is what they explicitly talked about amongst themselves. They believed that the will of the German Volk, the German people, was transmuted, distilled, and represented by Hitler, and Hitler embodied Germany. There's actually a famous little clip, one of the Nazi Nuremberg Party rallies, where Rudolf Hess, who at that time was the deputy Führer, der Stellvertreter, shrieked that Hitler is Germany just as Germany is Hitler, Sieg Heil. That was the essence of their philosophy, that they were not a tyranny, they were a democracy. The people had somehow given not only their consent, but had expressed their will in the person of Adolf Hitler. And everything that Adolf Hitler did, it wasn't Adolf Hitler doing it, he was merely a vessel for the German Volk. Now that is the attenuated, the distilled, the 200 proof version of it, but really we've got the same thing here. It's just not, it's a little watered down, but in principle it's the same thing. And it's a very problematic philosophy on a moral level and on a practical level. I personally believe that unless each distinct individual has given specific proxy authority to some other person to act and decide on their behalf, that person has no right to act or decide on their behalf. And certainly none of us have ever been presented with a contract that we're free to sign or not, in which we are given the option to either decide for ourselves or to surrender that sovereign authority that each individual possesses and give it away to this other person who we've probably never met, never will meet, who will then proceed to claim that he is transmuting our will, and by dint of that, we're obliged to obey, that we're obligated to obey. It's a pernicious idea. So that is today's short little rant to deconstruct democracy, the plague that currently, unfortunately, is sweeping the globe, which is a form of tyranny every bit as virulent, just more diffuse and more clever than some of the other tyrannies that most people have come to be wary of. Anyhow, there will be more up at epautos.com. Also, we'll have a review of this Hyundai Tucson. The most recent review that's up on the site is of the current Lexus RX 450h Hybrid. And there will also be a review of the Ford Edge. Had a lot of crossovers lately. And there's an article about a repair job that I've been doing on a 1980 Harley Ironhead Sportster. It's one of the Harleys from the infamous AMF era, and it's been quite the saga. But anyway, I hope you'll take the time to stop by the site and check it out, see what we've got, see if you like it, and if you do like it, come on back and tell other people about it, and we'll catch you on the flip-flop.